Hey everybody, welcome to Houdini Hangout. We're in the second week of November, and it's a fun day. It is Houdini 20 release day. Hopefully everybody out there is having a nice time playing around with some of the new features. If you hadn't been able to already, if you weren't on the beta users or whatnot, lots of fun new features to play around with. So hopefully you're all enjoying them. Today I have some flashy new headphones, care of a friend of mine. My headphones broke, so I look very fancy and flashy. Sorry, my camera's a little off-center. So I look like I'm trying to be somebody pretty cool, but I certainly have not changed at all. So, so we have a bunch of new features to be able to talk about and go over. So I'm looking forward to that. We're going to be talking about that today. Also, we'll be talking about the just some simulation stuff. I had a suggestion. Hey Shaz, welcome to the stream. Welcome. I had a suggestion to take a look at the Insidium trailer, which is Insidium is who makes X particles for C4D, and was suggested to, hey, maybe we should take a look at those and see if we can recreate some of them. So I'm going to do that today. I might do something a little bit more formal in the future. Hey DJ, welcome. Hello Houdiniers. So I might do something a little bit more formal to kind of do a bunch of those setups, or just kind of pull some off from time to time. Obviously there's a lot to, any reels like that they might put out, a lot of different techniques and types of simulation and things like that. So, certainly worth messing around with and playing around with a little bit, but we'll do that a little bit later in the stream. But for now, we are going to maybe talk a little bit about Houdini 20 to kind of start things off here. For me, it's been kind of funny because I've, was obviously in the alpha and beta phases, and was, playing around with it from, for a while now. And I actually would have it installed on this computer that I'm sitting on for, I've had it on here probably for at least on and off for the past 6 to 9 months or so. And so I would get really nervous sometimes that I would accidentally open it, and I would definitely have some momentary freakouts while streaming, being like, oh no, did I open up 20 by accident? But I didn't, ever, that I know of. Somebody would have certainly mentioned it at some point, if I did. I know people have mentioned that they saw the icon on my desktop, and in my launcher they would see it there, so it's certainly funny from that standpoint. But today we get to actually talk about it and go through some of the new features and things like that. And if there's anything that you guys are interested in talking about, I can hopefully give, a little bit more, insight, or as much as I can give some insight into some of the new features. I'm certainly not, I don't know all of them, obviously. Most people don't, and there's quite a few. If you haven't looked through them, there were a bunch in there that surprised me even. As someone who's listening to a lot of the development of the software. I've mentioned that I think a couple times over as we were talking about the sneak peeks and things like that. But so if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, please put those in the chat, and I will do my best to answer them, or give my best answer, and can always bring an official answer onto the Discord. So if if you are looking to get onto the Discord server, go to HoudiniHangout.com. There's an invite there, and you will be able to get access to that. There's places where you can suggest a topic for the stream. Places where you can, ask for help with things. And there's also a link on there in one of the channels that will get you access to all of the HIP files from the stream. So feel free, and you can always ask questions about those as well in there. So feel free to ask about that anytime, and go on there. And if you have any thoughts or questions, you can join the conversation. We had some good chats today already. So DJ, you are asking, I have an apprentice license. What if I have a commercial one? Will V-Ray Renderer work for me accordingly? Yes, for sure. V-Ray works with a commercial one. If you would like, so there's a couple different levels of license. What I had before joining Side Effects was a indie license, and that's good as long as you are a freelancer and you're making less than $100,000 a year. That should do it. If you're making more than that, you need to buy the full effects or core or whatever license that you would want. Most people would at that point go to an effects license, but obviously core licenses could work as well. Just you lose out on the dynamics side of things, which is why a lot of people come to Houdini. So, but anyways, so that should work with Indie. With the Indie license, you can use any third-party plugins, renderers, things like that. There are a couple of limitations, but they're really specific and not a huge deal. They do save your HIP files as HIP LCs for limited commercial, and if you open that in a full commercial license, it will downgrade it from there. So so that's that would be your solution, and it's a great price on Indie. Those are really good. I think it's like, I want to say it's like 300 something for like 2 years. So I mean, you can't really beat that. That's a pretty darn good deal for Houdini, at least. Carlos, are the Gorilla materials Material X? Oh, that's a good question. I actually don't know that. I would have to just straight up Google that. Maybe ask that on the Discord server, and we could certainly look into that. Actually, yes, I know. I have been. Well, I can't do it right now, but I'll have to open up another piece of software. But maybe ask that question over in the Discord, and then we can always follow up on that. But I don't think they are, because they're for multiple softwares. So I have a feeling they're not. But maybe. I don't know. But we'll talk about that in a second. As far as Material X stuff, because there are a few new ways that you can get to some Material X materials in Houdini much more quickly now, which is really nice, and I think it's very helpful as far as getting some quick start setups and things like that. So we'll talk about that a little bit in a second. Just doing something here, sorry. All right, I don't know if there are any other questions there, but maybe there will be. So yeah, like I said, if you have any questions at all, thoughts, comments, critiques, I don't know what else, other words. If you have any of those, please feel free to put those in the chat. Always happy to answer any questions as we're going through things. I guess there's never a dumb question here. So you're always welcome to ask whatever. And please feel free to join in the conversation. That's what makes this more fun and makes it so that we can have better. It makes it better for anybody, because if you have those questions, and other people do as well. But let's jump in and we can kind of start playing around with Houdini 20 a little bit and going from there. So cool. Here we are. Look, it's 20. Ruslan is asking, I'm doing a slime character for my final movie at university. I tried viscosity with flip. Do you have any idea of a sim that would work on an animated character? Well, viscosity with flip could work, but if you're trying to do a character, that's a little bit different. Probably what I would do is have a base character mesh and then have that character emitting a flip sim and like dripping off of it, like really gooey and slow. That's probably how I would do it. You could certainly do some other things, I guess. Character effects is not my specialty, but I would think that would maybe be the best way of doing it, is having some sort of like base geometry that is your character, and then emitting from that after the fact with the simulate, like a passive simulation. You wouldn't obviously want to animate a simulation. That would be really hard to like art direct and control. So that would be my thoughts, but it's interesting. It's an interesting issue, and certainly that might be something to maybe show some of your things on the Discord server and work through some of that, right? Because that might need some tweaking and finessing and things like that. DJ, you're asking again, do I need to learn Karma? I feel comfortable with V-Ray. No, you don't have to learn Karma. Karma is certainly is a great renderer, and it's really fast, and the XPU functionality has been greatly improved, and in general, Karma performance has been greatly improved. But yeah, you do not have to. No, you can use V-Ray. Also install H20. Really excited to test Karma. Carlos is saying this. I think that is something most people are waiting for. Animation tools look cool also, but I'll have to see. Yeah, so so DJ's saying for Ruslan that it would be better to have a combination of a rig and then some flip fluid effects. Yep, exactly. Also, Pascal, thanks, Matul. I borrowed them from someone. Thank you for commenting on my headphones. I will have black ones eventually. They're a little too flashy for me. They match my shirt, though, so it works. Pascal mentioned that the grayscale material should be Material X. That's what they said on their Discord channel. Okay, there we go. There's a better answer. I don't know that. I didn't know that for sure. Yeah, so Carlos was talking about the animation tools, and I guess we should just talk about those really quickly. There is a new process for animating. You don't have to use, like, you can still do the KineFX stuff. The KineFX stuff all still works. It's not out the window, and it will continue to work. But there is kind of a new animation state that exists. Let me pull this up because I know it's on the SideFX website. So let's pull this up here. There you go, Grayscale Gorilla right on the homepage. There's Houdini 20. Also, tomorrow there will be a whole day full of presentations that will be live restreams of what was presented in London. So if you're interested in any of the new features, Solaris, what's new? Karma XPU, Sexy Clouds, SOP-based crowds, KineFX rigging animation ragdoll, feathers, birds of a feather, how to make a feathered friend, real-time feathers, and then modeling and look dev. If you're interested in any of that stuff, please check that out tomorrow. Matul says I should get orange headphones to go with the Houdini theme. I don't know, that might be a little too flashy for me as well. So if you're interested in any of this stuff, tomorrow those will all be streamed from 9 a.m. Eastern time to 2:50. That can't be a.m. That's got to be a mistake. Cool, 2:50 p.m. Or you can stay up to 2:50 a.m. and see if Fiona will be around online, but I doubt she will. The cool thing is that the developers and the people that gave these presentations the developers are the people that gave the presentations, but they'll be in the chat, and they'll be kind of discussing some of and answering questions based on, you can join and ask questions of them. So, yeah, there's a lot of, there's a lot of really cool stuff here. Certainly, I'm actually interested to watch. I was in London for school visits. I actually got to go to the release presentation that was on the keynote presentation that was on that last Wednesday. No, it must have been 2 Wednesdays ago. Yeah. Anyways, I can't remember. It's all blended together. But these all happened the next day, and I wasn't able to attend them. So I'm actually really looking forward to this. I might have these on in the background while we're while I'm working tomorrow. So should be a lot of really great information. All these people are awesome, really, really helpful people. Like, for example, Esther is the one who is kind of heading up a lot of the technical stuff for the new rigging workflows. Warren did all the animation for all the character stuff that you saw in the presentations. So lots of really great stuff there, and take a look at those tomorrow. But oh shoot, what was I was going somewhere else here. Maybe I was going to talk about the animation stuff. I don't remember. Anyways, there's some more questions in here. So Woody was just mentioning ephemeral rigging. And I feel the new freeform rigging is very similar to it. Yeah, for sure. That's definitely like inspiration. Like, the concept of ephemeral rigging was inspiration for how we were going to create this new rigging environment. There certainly is a lot of heavily technical stuff that's going on in the background. If you've seen talk about Apex, that is an incredibly complicated piece of work that's happening behind the scenes. I mean, it's almost on the level of like introducing like Vex or Solaris in a way, I guess. I mean, it's kind of a whole new way of working with data in Houdini. And hey, Terry, welcome. And the if you saw in the keynote presentation, it said in there it's Apex all-purpose execution graph, and all-purpose was crossed out right now because it is not all-purpose yet. But that's the hope for the future, and already I can tell you that there is certainly some fun things that are going to be happening with that in the future, and certainly is something that will be used in other parts of Houdini. So it is not just going to be for rigging. But yeah, certainly the rigging stuff is like that. So Carlos, one thing I'm really curious about is how we could use feather tools for other purposes. Well, the cool thing is that feathers really aren't feathers. They're hair. They're just a special kind of hair. So all of the grooming tools in Houdini will work for both feathers and hair. And there's also now the ability to paint textures directly onto geometry without having resolution limited geometry, or resolution like attributes that are limited by the resolution of your geometry. In the past, you would have to kind of subdivide your geometry more and more and more to get finer and finer control over where attributes are being painted. That is not the case anymore, and now going forward, there will be the ability to actually paint in UV space on a character on geometry without having to deal with that stuff. Hey, Carlos, welcome. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, so that the Houdini Hive tomorrow will be a lot of really great presentations by people that are either the ones that have made it or know really well this stuff, and should be really, really exciting. So take a look at that. There was something else I was going to say and I cannot remember it, but that's okay. It'll come back to me eventually. So, yeah, DJ. So, DJ, you're asking a little bit of a personal question. How long have I been working with Houdini? I started working with Houdini at the very end of 2015, beginning of 2016. So it's been about 8 years for me, roughly. Just probably coming up on an 8-year anniversary of working with Houdini. So I'm in the world of Houdini. I'm still pretty new. There's a lot of people that have a lot longer experience with it than me, but I just really enjoy chatting about it and talking about it. So certainly there's plenty of other people that are way smarter than me that are good people to talk to. So but I just really enjoy sharing what I do know and trying to learn from other people and things like that. So thanks. No, definitely not a master. I can promise you that. There are plenty of people that know infinitely more than I do, but it is that's the thing with Houdini. You never really master it. It's always a learning process. You always continue. So if you feel like you've mastered it, that's where you should be worried. Hey Zach, welcome. So Carlos, you're asking about how will that work? Are those textures actually textures or some kind of p-text thing? Is it an attribute or what? No, they are volumes, and I can show you that real quick in a second here. So feathers is actually one of the things that I've spent the most time working with. I've been making some reference videos, just basic simple reference videos for instructors on that. Unfortunately, that will probably stay in our private instructor kind of world. We have a learning platform for all of the instructors globally that use Houdini, but I've been kind of diving into that. So I will be probably in the next few weeks trying to put together something that'll be a proper, feather kind of walkthrough. Sorry, my brain and mouth are not working properly today, so give me a second. Walkthrough. Are we going to get some Apex action? No. Apex is still very much, it's deep, man. I'll say this. I only started understanding maybe the finer details of it during the launch presentation when I was sitting there watching them use it, and I was like, okay, I think I know what's happening now. It's really intense. It's super intense. Watch the stuff tomorrow. They'll be able to give you a way better example of what I know about Apex. So let's see. Oh, you feel so stupid when working with Houdini. No, don't feel stupid. Houdini is difficult, but the reason it's difficult is because it really is a paradigm shift from how we work in a lot of other programs. It exposes a lot more things to you that you can control. It's funny, we find that when I deal a lot with students out there, and so we find a lot that when students get a hold of Houdini, earlier stages of their kind of learning journey, they actually find it to be easier. So in a lot of cases, some cases not, but on the whole, we find that. So anyways, don't feel stupid. It is a bit of a mind shift from other software programs. So Terry was saying his friend was wondering if you had to manually use all those new Apex nodes. No, I don't think you have to manually use all of the new Apex nodes. What you can do, one of the things about Apex is that the graph you can build an Apex graph with Apex graphs, which is kind of crazy to think about. But if you watch, I'm sure they'll talk more about it tomorrow, but it is actually, you're able to actually build the graph. And yeah, it's really intense because it's basically storing the network, your node network as geometry and storing that. And so it's kind of like invoke graphs. So if you've seen anything about that, that's similar. It's in the same vein of it. Sandy, oh, the example file, the Eagle example file is so confusing. I actually haven't gotten a chance to open that yet. Maybe I should download that and we can take a look at it together. It's not, yeah, don't worry about Apex. If you don't know what I'm talking about with Apex, do not worry about it. It is not important right now. It's a much more advanced concept. If you're new to Houdini, if you're early on in your Houdini journey, do not worry about Apex. It is not going to be something you need to worry about for this version for sure. So Pascal is asking, what are the new quality of life features that probably are not that flashy to market, but you can't now live without when working with H20? All right, let's do some actual Houdini stuff because that's what we're all here for. I think that would make sense. So one thing that I would say is really nice is, so let's do this here. Let's do Geo. Let's just drop a geometry node down. I'm going to do something incredibly flashy. Let's make a sphere. And so, well, there one thing that's really, really fun. All the new carbon nodes. Yeah, let's just go through every node. Let's just go through every new node. Yeah, handles on ramps. Very nice. Splines in the animation editor. Those are nice. Hey, Epoxia, welcome. Another thing that's really nice is they've tried to group these a little bit better. If you remember, in previous versions of Houdini, we had these got a little bit bloated, let's just say. We've tried to organize these quite a bit more. A lot of time and talk has gone into these. So the tab menu is now a bit more organized. It will never be perfect because everybody will want something in special places, but they've really tried to really put these in a lot better of a place. There's also, let's see here, where was that? I just saw it. Oh, test geometry. There's a new shader ball. So if you want a shader ball, there's a new shader ball. Thanks to, I think Chris Redalch and a couple other people may have done that, but there's a new shader ball. Fancy, fancy. That should be available in Solaris as well. In fact, it's probably more useful in Solaris, but it's over here in SOPs also. Then there's the Mantra Classic, and there's the default. So, yep, some new test geometry and things like that. But yeah, the tab menu is, ooh, getting a little flash there from my graphics card. Interesting. Ooh, that's exciting. I think everybody else is seeing that, right? Am I? Hopefully. Oh, that's not fun. Well, if it's flashing, my apologies. I'm not sure what that's all about. Might have to look into that. Might be a graphics. Give Vulkan a try. No. Vulkan is experimental still. Do not. Vulkan will get better over time. In fact, that was mentioned by the developers on the forum at some point, that over the course of this release cycle, more and more Vulkan stuff will be implemented. So that will be something that will be happening over time. So my apologies if this, if this gets a little funky here. I wonder if it's that. I wonder if it's, sorry, maybe it's this thing. Sorry. I'm just going to try to quit that. Is it that? Nope. Might have to update my graphics drivers at some point here, but I'm not going to do that right now. So sorry for any glitchy weirdness in this stream. My apologies, but please stick with me on that one. Anyways, so what I was going to talk about was this. We have a sphere. Great. We'll just put a null down. Get an output. Great. We're really breaking some ground here. So let's grab a LOP network here. And first of all, there's some things here that are a little different, but that we don't have to worry too much about. But I'll just call this Solaris. And let's do a SOP import. And so you may have noticed what this did. You may not have noticed what this did. But I didn't have to change my geometry spreadsheet down here. So when we go back here, it's still in that geometry spreadsheet. But when we jump in here, we're getting our standard SOP level geometry spreadsheet. So now the geometry spreadsheet will actually switch when you go into Solaris. This might not be the most useful layout as far as how this could be. Like I probably would move this up a little bit if I was using this, you know, as an actual like workspace. But it definitely saves you the trouble of having to add, like go in here and add a new pane type and all that stuff. So that's one of my favorite little things because I've been doing a lot of Solaris stuff. So for me, that was like, oh, this is huge. This is, oh, that's so annoying. Yeah, so that's a really fun one. I really like that a lot. So yeah, that one's really good. The other thing, I think there was another thing that someone mentioned was, yes, ramps. So if we look at ramps here, so let's just say, so let's do this. Let's just do a noise fob, point fob. So we'll do that, drop that down, and let's just go inside of here. Let's maybe just add some noise, whatever, unified noise, turbulent noise will be fine. Cool. We'll just put our position in here, add some, and we'll add some noise into P. So we'll just do add, like so. There we go. We've got some noise. It's the greatest thing that's ever been created, right? And let's just say that we were going to do this, like the amplitude, we wanted to control it over the y-axis or something like that. Let's just say that. So what I'm going to do is do a match size, drag this to the ground, and we'll have it go across based on the actual y-axis. So let's just do this. We'll just get a ramp here, do a ramp parameter, and oh, actually, you know what? Nah, this is fine. Oh yeah, I know what I could do. I could do this way easier. Let's just do an attribute adjust vector, sure. And we could do this. Let's see, noise. What's the one I want here? No. Okay, so we'll do an attribute just float. Just trying to think of the best place to get a quick ramp here. There we go. So there we go. We've got our P scale. And if we go into the view state here, we can set this up a little bit better. Okay. Cool. So we've got our ramp there. And if we want to, we can grab this and set a couple of, let's see here, we'll just add in some Beziers. Sorry, Bezier. Change these all to Bezier. And there we go. You can see that we're starting to actually get our got handles here, but why are we not seeing those in the, there we go. Just didn't like what I was doing there, apparently. Sorry. Not sure why that is acting the way it is, but let's just do this. We'll change this one to Bezier, change this one to Bezier, and now we should be good. So we add in some more points here. I'll have some actual Bezier handles to play around with and control here. One of the things that's very different about this is that you could use Beziers before, but the problem was that if you went past one of these points, it would freak out. Now it won't do that. It'll actually overshoot. So you can see here that we can control where this is and overshoot it if we need to. So some fun little details there, some stuff to play around with for sure. So there's our Bezier handles in a ramp. So a couple fun things there, right? So that's a pretty cool thing. The other things, let's play around a little bit with maybe with our Solaris stuff here. So additions to UVs. I don't know. I haven't seen any additions with UVs. I mean, someone else may have noticed that. I haven't seen anything personally, but there certainly could be other things as well, but I haven't seen additions to UVs personally. All right, so let's do this. Let's do transform. We'll just move this guy up a little. Sorry. There we go. And let's maybe add in a few other things here. Maybe a torus, just some fun stuff. Some stuff to work with, and maybe just a box. Move these into position. Cool. All right, so we've got some geometry to play around with here. So let's take a look at this. So what we can do is we can use a material linker. And this will bring up the material linker dialog. And we have a catalog here, which is really nice. So now we actually have a full catalog of different materials here that can be used. So let's just shift that over for a second. So these are all now built in just right into Houdini itself. So we have some different things like smoke, some different things with wood, plastics, all sorts of different things here. So this is just drag and drop now. So from this standpoint, let's see here. I'm going to change this to, yeah, like that's probably better. So let's look at some of these things here. This will maybe help us see this a little better. Hopefully that's readable. Maybe the plus would work there. Oh, actually, there we go. Now we can read it a little bit better. Let's do it like that. That'll be a bit more visible. So if we wanted to add something like apple juice to the torus, we'll drag that over there. I'm going to switch this over to CPU mode, Karma CPU, and let's throw some lights in here. So let's do another one. Karma physical sky should be that new node. And this should give us a nice new physically accurate sky. And will, nope, what is it? Sorry. Trying to remember which one. Probably forgetting this. Lots of lights and cameras. Oh, it is the physical sky. What am I thinking of here? Light sampling. Oh, here. That's how you can change it either way. So you can change it with azimuth, altitude, or with location, date, and time. So you can set it up however you want to, time-wise, blah, blah, blah. Or you can do azimuth and altitude, and this will adjust accordingly based on, what time of day it will be and give you a nice little sky to work with. It's kind of nice, we can change, obviously, the direction it's coming from, all that kind of thing. So anyways, there we are. We've got some materials going. We've got our physical sky. So this is a nice quick way to be able to kind of throw something into your scene. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, yes, yes. They said it's possible to have UVs on curves, which would be great to texture ropes. Yes, exactly. There's a scene where they had a bunch of like forest type stuff, like over like a sinkhole type of a thing, and there were vines hanging down there, and they were shading those based on UV, parameters on the curve. So yeah, I think that might be what you're thinking of. So anyway, so we've got the physical sky here. We can play around with that, but let's go back over here and maybe play with some more details here. So let's take the cube. We'll turn that to maybe granite. There we go. And then let's see, what else do we have here? Can do like a thin plastic on the sphere. And there we go. The granite's not all that exciting. Maybe if we look at it from that side. There we go. That looks a little better. It's got kind of a nice little texture to it. That's cool. So we've got some granite here. We've got some thin plastic, I think, here. That's what I grabbed there. And if you noticed, when we were dragging and dropping these, we get a nice new highlight feature, which is great. It's a lot nicer to work with that. So in this case, let's say we were going to, we're adding these all into materials, but let's say we were going to grab something like this and add it to the sphere here. What it's going to actually do is continue to add these in here. So it's not going to get rid of the other it's not going to get rid of the other what am I trying to say here? It's not going to get rid of the one that you're like swapping it out for. It's just going to keep adding to that list based on this material linker. So in this case, we still have the thin plastic in here. However, it's added this silk teal. So we can see that right there. We're getting a kind of silk material. Now, granted, this is a crummy SOP import of a sphere, and it's not really that great, but basic concepts. So Carlos is asking, do you know if there's a way to load a material as flat instead of a USD reference? So what you could do is, I think the best way of doing that would be in the output node, right? So right now we have, let me leave those sort of elevated like that. So when we do a USD ROP, we have this output processors here, right? And so what we can do is we can make sure to save specific files relative to this. So we can save files that are being referenced next to these files that we're saving. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, the thing you're talking about with referencing specifically, the thing that you would want to do there is you would want to go here and say, instead of flatten implicit layers, you would want to do, you'd actually want to flatten the stage in that case. Excuse me. So you can flatten references by flattening the stage, and that will bake that reference data straight into that file. Now, granted, that may not be exactly what you want to do. So what you might want to do is, instead of having it in line like this, you might want to branch it off, and let's just say you wanted to, I don't know, you could sublayer it in like this if you wanted to, right? You could sublayer that in and say, you could do whatever with that. You could also merge this in like that. And what you might do over here is, instead of having this, oh, hey, Aspie, welcome to the stream. So what you could do here is you could do a configure configure layer, and you could set this up to with a save path, you know, somewhere, and you could also flatten this. You could flatten the stage, and that would make sure that anything that's happening up here is going to get flattened. So, so that would be how you could possibly flatten that material linker stuff if you wanted to. Be a little tricky. You'd have to kind of figure out. It's just a little different the way you have to think about it, but you could certainly flatten the whole stage before saving, and that would flatten it all into one USD file, and you could save, you know, referenced images and things like that alongside the file. So a couple of other random, yeah, that's okay. So the hex tile triplanar is killer. Yes, agreed. It's nice. It's kind of like a, it's like a triplanar, but it's a hex tiling thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So yes, Carlos, that's exactly what I was about to say. Yep, you just need to go into your license manager and make sure that you are, that if you have entitlements in there, you should go to install licenses, and then under there's probably updated licenses that you can get there. I had some weirdness because I was in the beta and alpha, so I actually had to uninstall my licenses and then reinstall them for them to work. So that's a possibility that might work. You know, uninstall your 19s and then just install your 20s, but just installing your 20s should work, and that should be fine. So give that a shot. Oh yeah, Epoxy, you're asking a similar question there. Yes, that I had to do that. If you were in the beta, there's a chance you might need to do that. So yes, that was who was asking that. So take a look. If you're wondering why I say some people might have access to the beta, if you're in a studio or have the annual upgrade plan, you get invited to the beta a little before the release of the software to, you know, limited commercial and non-commercial users. Or if you just have a license that doesn't have the AUP, the annual upgrade plan, whatever, you wouldn't get access to that. So yeah, so that might answer your question, Epoxia. So you've got all these materials here in the material linker, right? And this is great. These were all, I think these were all made more or less by Chris Wright-Alch, I'm pretty sure, who's one of the developers. Used to work for Blue Sky. Super great guy, and has done a lot of the development on Solaris, along with a couple of other really great folks like Mark Tucker and Rob PK. But if you want to get even more materials, we actually have access to the AMD Material X library as well. So what we can do is we can say here, open AMD Material X library. I'm just going to drop down a new folder and call it MatX, like that. I'm going to hit accept. And what this is going to do is now give us access to the material, the AMD GPU Open Material Library that they have. So this is all online right now. This is just browsing their catalog, but we'll have access to these and be able to drag and drop them. Yeah, so Carlos, you're asking about the material linker lop. Is that the preferred method for assigning materials? I would say if you want to have these preset materials, yes, 100%, that would be the way to do it. You're not going to get these any other way because it does have this user interface built into it, and the material linker does not. However, I do still... okay, there's a couple things I'll say. So in the past, this this UI, and in fact, I'm not loving how this is set up. I'm just going to move this over a little bit. There we go. Great. I think we're better now. So this UI has this little thing right here where it says filter based on selection. I like that to be checked off personally, because right now it looks like we have no materials selected, right? There's no rules assigned. But there's actually several rules assigned here. So I don't like that personally. In fact, there's 2 assigned now with thin plastic. So what I would want to do is actually get rid of this one because that one no longer applies. So this is why I tend to not use the material linker, because of this checkbox down at the bottom. I have to turn it off, and then sometimes I feel like it's a little weird for me. I like the older school setup better, but this could work just fine for you. Like this is a totally legitimate way of working. So I usually check this off and then work with things here, because it can get really annoying for me to be like selecting certain things and then them disappearing like this. Like, okay, there that is, and then I can select and change and all. Like, it's a little too specific on how, how it works like that. So I turn that off. So if you do that, I think it's a pretty solid way of working. The other thing that I would say, though, is that for me, I think the assigned material still works really well. So if you're going from the library, then like if you're going from one of those libraries or catalogs, then yeah, certainly you have to use the material linker. Right now, that's how the UI is built. But in a lot of other cases, I still would probably use the assigned material. So it's kind of a long-winded answer, but it's kind of like, it's up to you. But I wouldn't say it's the recommended way, but certainly in some cases, the only way you'll get some of these things. So anyways, we get this catalog, and now what this will do is actually download these from the internet, right? So let's find something interesting, like maybe this one. We'll put this on the cube. There we go. Now we have that on the cube. And so what it was actually doing there was downloading it in the background. Let's maybe put one of these on the sphere. Do that. There it goes. It's really tiny. The UVs on it are pretty small. And let's grab one more. We'll just do one more here. I don't know. Brass brushed on the torus. Let it drop down, download, do its thing. Cool. So now we have a brushed brass material there. We've got this crazy thing here, and then that has its stone material on it. So now we have all of these set up and good. So that would be how I would do this. So Carlos, what you're saying is the problem that I see with the reference method is if I move the directory where I have the material database, the reference will no longer work. That's not true, because by default, our USD ROP will use relative paths. So if you save your USD file, this is always on by default, and it'll make sure that these have relative paths. And if you have, if you're saving your files, if you save those files, I think it's this one, save files to a specific directory, that's the one. I think that should also use relative paths as well. So as long as those files are in using relative paths, you can move them around. Look at how the component builder does things. That builds it all a very similar way and makes sure it kind of packages everything together, saves all the textures with it, that type of thing. So that would be, that would be a way to, you could also use the component output if you wanted to. You'd have to be a little careful with how you set things up because it's expecting specific things. But you could use the component output if you're building an object or like a material, or sorry, not a material, but some sort of an asset that you're going to save to disk. You could use the component builder to save out a component. However, that's not really that a component is not a scene. So if you're saving out a scene using this USD ROP, should save everything out with relative pathing. So that's kind of the way that I would say to work with it. But if you run into something, feel free to reach out to me and I'll take a look at that and see if I can clarify the workflow for that, because certainly USD is not yeah, that's great. Yeah, do some testing on it. But if you run into something and are like struggling with that, let me know. And I'd be happy to kind of elaborate on that further. Also see, I've done a few courses on USD stuff. So If you watched the authoring or the asset building one, there probably is some stuff in there that would help you understand. Probably the authoring one would actually be pretty important to understand some of that relative pathing and how that stuff works. But both of those certainly would be helpful to take a look at if you're starting to get into a lot of USD asset building and things like that, which I think now it's even, I mean, these are the quality of life things, right? It's even more doable now to be able to start to see how these materials are built, what goes into them. If we look at some of these different things, they're going to be a little complicated here, but what you can actually do, I believe, let's just see. Let's make, oh, cool. Yeah, good. I'm glad you did. There's 3 of them. So if you haven't watched the asset building one, that one came out earlier this year. Take a look at it. But anyways, yeah, good. I'm glad. Let's see. There is not that. That's the wrong one. Let's edit material network. If we drop that down, let's grab the material path. Let's look at this cobblestone one, and let's load that. Give it a second. Cool. I think if we go inside of this now, we should see, yep. So this is obviously just a bunch of parameters and things like that, but you can certainly see how this is built if you wanted to here. So oh, this is a different shader. Sorry. Let me see. What's going on up here? Yeah, so this is more of what is actually happening here. So we've got some material images and mixing nodes, things like this that are happening inside of here. You can take a look at these. I mean, this certainly isn't going to be like the most clear thing in the world, but you can see, okay, here's how it's doing the coat normal. Here's how it's doing the base color, things like that. So you can kind of investigate how this works. They'll actually rebuild this network for you. It's not going to be the most perfect thing in the world. And here's a bunch of parameters as well. This goes into standard surface. Yeah, this is obviously a little hard to, it's all just wired in this way. But certainly you can see how some of these things work here if you go in and take a look. But you can maybe glean some things off of it that way as well if you want to kind of reverse engineer how some of these things are made, which is obviously a pretty unique thing to be able to do with a shader. So, oh, cool, Carlos, that's really awesome to hear. Yeah, I mean, that's cool to me because I used to do commercial motion design work, so that's really exciting. That's awesome. I honestly think it's getting more and more to that point where Solaris is a solid, it really is just the way that you should work with rendering in Houdini. Not everybody renders in Houdini, but if you are planning to do that, just moving over to Solaris is just the way to go at this point. Hey, Paolo, welcome. So another thing to take a look at too, if you're getting into the Solaris world, I think, let's see here, what's going on here? That's not showing up. I think this is related. I think that little hang there is related to this driver thing that's flashing my screen, because I haven't had this possible to expose parameters outside the network. Not sure if I well, I deleted that, but oh, I think I know what you're saying. Edit material properties, that's what it would be. So if you did edit material properties, this is more of what I think you're talking about here. So if we did the cobblestone square, create parameters, that will promote them all right there. That's how it works, because those are all written in the USD, right? So that's all here in the scene graph details. These are all the values that exist. So this will allow you to override those, right? And you can actually create specialized from this that would be its own. So how this would work is you would do my custom shader, right? So now you can see down here it says my custom shader, and anything you make here will actually be a specialization of that material. So that is a really kind of cool way of going about doing things like that. Like if you have a shader and you want to override certain parts of it, you can do that here, right? So you could come in and change base colors. I think you can even do images if they're promoted properly. Yeah, I don't see any file inputs here, which is interesting. But anyways, yeah, sorry. We're getting into crazy USD stuff. That was not my intention, but it's fun. Sorry, Saad. Yeah, there's a lot of fancy stuff here a lot of Solaris stuff that I'm doing. But, so where was I? Yeah, no problem, Carlos. Yeah, take a look at that. That's how you can tweak anything that's promoted within a material network can be done that way. So if you have parameters exposed there, see how these say inputs? That's the important thing. If they have inputs that are set within your shader, you can then create kind of this base level shader, then promote those up and do a whole bunch of really cool stuff. You can kind of create like an Uber shader from that and then make a bunch of specializations based on that. So anyways, sorry, crazy USD stuff. Hit me up in the Discord if you want some more details on this. I can always talk about that offline. Yeah, what was I talking about? Just looking at the chat here. Cool, done several projections in Solaris. We love it deeply, at least I do. Used to hate. Yeah, the object context, it had a lot of limitations. People are really used to it, but I think it's just that people are used to it. I don't think it's really actually the best way of doing it. I think this feels, in some ways, this feels so much more Houdini-ish, even though like people are like, oh, putting all these individual nodes with, that aren't wired together as lights is like the way to go. And it's like, yeah, that's fine. That's how we've done it for a while. But like changing over, there's been some growing pains, but I think a lot of studios are starting to really see this as, yeah, I don't think OBJ is real Houdini. Yeah, it doesn't feel procedural. That's the weird part about it. You're not wiring things together unless you're parenting. So, yeah. Anyways, let's see here. There was something else that somebody asked, and I got off track. Shoot. Yeah, I can't remember. Right. So, just as a note to Carlos, if you were to promote those parameters like that and do some randomization, you could certainly, that would answer the question that you asked before. That would certainly be the case there. Cool. All right. I don't know if anybody has any more questions about that stuff. I feel like there was a question somewhere and I've lost it. But anyways, yeah. All right. So let's pull the Houdini thing back up here and let's go back into support, documentation. I'm not logged in. Okay, good. Go to Houdini 20. And if you're curious, there is this whole section in here where you can look at new features. So let's see here. Oh, I guess that's another one that we should talk about is feathers, right? That would be smart. Let me see. I'm going to go back here to the content library. No worries about getting off track. Let's take a look at, well, we can look at the eagle feathers. That's cool. Let's download this. How big is this? Well, it doesn't say. Well, we'll see. I'm not going to put this in that folder. Let's just throw this in downloads for now. It's 2 gigs. Perfect. Oh, God. Sorry if my internet goes bananas. All right. So this is probably smarter to look at. Let's take a look. Actually, you know what? I can put it in there. It's not going to upload this. I just don't want to. Where's there? I'll save it next to this. So let's just. I'll make sure I don't accidentally upload that again. Let's see here. Oh, geez. Think I just had my first Houdini 20 crashed. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be growing pains. And I'll say this, that there certainly are going to be some... there's already some bugs and things like that. So if you run into bugs, please put in a bug report. If you can do that, that'd be awesome. Those are super helpful for us to know what's going on. Obviously, there's going to be those growing pains at the beginning. That's always the case. The daily builds, I believe, will start coming out next week. So we're going to be kind of... yeah, congrats. We're going to be kind of building up a... not a backlog, but kind of building up to a kind of a next, to start getting bugs squashed and then releasing a new build from there. Gosh, I hate that flashing. I'm so sorry about that. That stinks. That's really frustrating. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about. I'm just gonna say sphere. Cool. There's my Solaris. And let's do this. I'm just going to say make another geometry, and we'll call this geo single feather. So let's look at feathers for a second here. I think this will be a fun little thing to just kind of play around with. So what we can do is we can say feather template. Feather template is the easiest way to kind of get started with a feather, basically. Turn off the ghosting. So right now we will have these false alarm recovered. So right now it makes a feather. One thing you should always know about the feathers is that if you're not seeing the barbs, these little lines here, that are coming from the center shaft, go up one level, hide this one, and make sure that the shade open curves and viewport is checked. Is the viewport using Vulkan now in 20? No, that's experimental. You have to turn on Vulkan if you want to play around with it. It's an environment variable that you can set. I don't know why my monitor's flashing right now, which is really frustrating me. Actually, my computer monitor is not. It's just the stream, so it's something with my graphics card for sure. But anyways, or with my Wirecast or whatever. I'll figure it out. So you have to have this shade open curves and viewport. That's important to be able to actually see these because these aren't real geometry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little easier to see. I'm going to go background, change this to dark gray. This is shipped by default now in Houdini. It's not a labs thing. And if we turn on our points, I am going to change the point size here to, I don't know, 8 maybe. And I guess I need to do guides, point marker size. Yeah, that's the one. That's 8. Cool. All right, so these are just points, right? This is actually geometry here. So if I went to select and try to select this, all I can select is this shaft. I cannot select these individual barbs. So these are the barbs. So when we say barbs, what we're talking about are these curves. Now these are kind of GPU drawn curves that come off from the center shaft. So these are the barbs right here and here. So if I do a feather uncondense, drop that down, that will turn these into actual geometry. Now you can see I can actually select these if I wanted to. They're all separate curves. The spine is its own. These are their own curves as well. So uncondense is a way that you can turn this all into geometry. You could do something like, I don't know, we could just do a mountain on it just really quickly. Add a mountain on this, let it go bonkers. I'm not going to noise it along the vector. We're going to turn the amplitude down because that's a little crazy. Zero centered. Cool. Something like that. I don't know. This is a terrible example, but it'll have to do. And let's just offset it a little bit. There we go. That's maybe a better example like that. Cool. So if we did something like this with our feather and we wanted to set it back, we would do a match uncondensed like this. Grab our original feathers. This one says uncondensed feathers. You plug it in there. Now we have condensed feathers that match our uncondensed feathers. So that is the idea of the feathers, right? You can kind of tweak them in multiple ways. You can also tweak them with in their condensed form. You should be able to do a feather noise. And this should, got a warning there, cool, it's OpenCL. So a lot of these things are all OpenCL generated. It's compiling some OpenCL stuff right now, so it's doing that. Give it a second, there we go. All right, so now we have OpenCL noise on this, and we can kind of noise this up in different ways. We can noise it along the shaft. We can noise it along the barbs themselves. So you can see here, now we're just noising these barbs, right? And so the thing to keep in mind with these is that these are, like I said, these aren't geometry. They're attributes that live on this center hair, basically. It's just a hair. And so what we're dealing with here is a bunch of floats. So we actually have, in this case, when we're making this feather template, we can set the density here. So we could up the barb density on here. We could up the barb segments. We could add a few more barb segments to this, 5, for example. And now what you'll see is that there's a few more segments to this, right? So there's more places where this is like being drawn. So if I turn this up even more, now it's got quite a few more segments there. And that's just going to give us a bit more, bit more quality on the way that these are being drawn, right? So yeah, maybe like that. We get some crazy noise and things like that. We can also set a fall off away from the center spine here, so we can set it to fall off differently there, so that works as well. And you can set these amplitudes based on the tangents and bitangents and all that kind of stuff. So cool. What this is doing, what this noise is doing, is actually adjusting these barb attributes down here. So I'm going to just shift this up so we can read this. And this is obviously just a wall of data, but this is what's actually happening here. We have these P attributes. So we have P barb L and P barb R. They're 24 float long arrays of attributes. And in sets of 3s, they define the point positions of these GPU drawn barbs. So that is what's happening here. So each of these points, each of like these kind of triplets of data. So 0, 1, 2, that's the first barb position here. Then this one has 3, 4, 5. That's going to be the next one, and so on across. And that's the left barbs. And then the same thing is true of the right barbs as well. So that is how the feathers are kind of put together, and that's how it stores the data. And when we uncondense them, we no longer have those. They're all just individual points now. So that is the difference between them. And I might go into a further kind of deep dive on this, but for now, I think this will just be a little whet your appetite of how you can kind of play around with feathers. There's cool stuff you can do with interpolation, a bunch of other things as well. I guess the thing I should say is, let's go up here to this curve, right? I'm gonna hide that. So if we watch this and select our curve up here and go into our view state, right? Oh, sorry, here. And I'm just going to control click that so we can see the output. If we do that, we can then see, I'm just going to move this down here. We can see that we can adjust, hello? There we go. We can adjust this Bezier curve, right? And these Bezier curves are simply going to draw how these feathers, are shaped. So these outer curves define kind of how the boundary of these barbs are created, and this center spine creates the shaft, right? So in this case, this is actually, let's see here, I can re-pull these tangents, control, so I could actually pull it like this, create a tangent that goes over there, right? So this is now controlling where this center goes, and these curves are drawn off from that. So what feather shape org does, this feather shape organize node has no parameters. All it does is takes in curves, makes sure that they're sorted and named and grouped properly, and then puts those in all the correct data into the feather template from shape. Now, similarly, if we wanted to tweak this a little bit more, what we can do is we can add another Bezier curve here, and we can draw some curves here. And so what we can do is things like this. We could draw one curve here that's going to go like this, maybe. Hit enter, and then I'll draw another curve here. No, that's, sorry. Doing this a little too quick, like that. And then hit enter, and then I'll draw another curve. I don't want it to snap onto that. We'll draw another curve over here. And now we have a little split drawn into this. But what if we actually wanted this to go upwards, right? We could take this, I'm going to go over to F to edit this. We could actually shift it up like so. And we could get some curve on it here, right? We could give this, some similarly like downwards curve like that. You can see that now these curves define where this shape is kind of built. So this is the idea of how you can play around with these feathers. Take a watch of those videos tomorrow. They're going to go into probably way more detail and better examples and things like that. But this is the simple details of how this works. And so, yeah, it's a really fun thing to play around with. The grooming is really cool. And maybe that'll be a good, segue into something else here. Oh, I heard about a car rig in H20. I haven't played around with that at all, so I do not have anything to really show with that, but that is something I want to play around with as well. There's a lot of stuff for me to play around with, but not on this stream. I don't think I'm going to talk too much about that. But it's a great question. How do I report a bug? Great question. So if you want to report a bug, you can go here to support, report a bug, RFE, log in here. Oh yeah, I should say Matul is one of our, is currently still, right, is an intern with Side Effects. And if you watch that video, that's another one of our interns driving the car, the car rig around with the steering wheel. So I can imagine he's played around with it quite a bit more than I could ever have. So yeah, but I have a feeling it's very fun to play around with. Let me log in real quick with my non-Side Effects account. Don't want to give out my personal email on here. Cool. That doesn't have my information on it? No, I don't think so. If it does, whatever. So this is then the bug and RFE, or request for enhancement. If you ever have an idea for some motorsport in Houdini, it's probably more like a demolition derby. You could probably more easily do than maybe a very, very accurate driving sim. But yeah, that's awesome for Forza. So this is for both bugs and requests for enhancements. We take both of those really seriously. Side Effects does. It is no joke that if you have a request for enhancement, someone is going to look at it, and it will be cataloged with other things that are similar or be set apart if it's something new that's been requested, and be talked about seriously. So please submit, as long as they're not just like, you should make Houdini faster. You know what I mean? Like, but bugs obviously are really important, and something that we really appreciate people sending in. Just make sure that you go through like reasonable steps to reproduce and what the actual versus expected behavior would be. These are really important, because if we can't reproduce it, there's no way we can fix it, right? So yeah, this is really important. Fill all this stuff out, and that's where you can submit a bug. Just make sure you give some details for the great people in support. My thoughts and prayers go out to all the folks in support today and in the coming time. They've known for quite some time that they cannot take any vacation during this very solemn time of release. So, our thoughts and prayers are with the support team right now as they get flooded with requests. I work for the education team, dealing with schools and things like that. And when we sent out the new license information, we got like 20 response emails immediately from a bunch of auto repliers, and then real people started replying. So we get inundated. So I can only imagine what the folks at support deal with, and they are amazing. So hats off to them forever. They are amazing. Anyways, let's look at one other thing to... Oh, Santa. Welcome to the stream, Santa. I would really like a new set of golf clubs for Christmas, if you're taking requests. Sorry, just had to do it. So Santa, or Santa, I don't know how you would pronounce that, is asking about the Vulkan viewport renderer. So the Vulkan viewport is, right now, what it is going to be is a replacement in the coming versions for the OpenGL viewport. It is currently just experimental. It's just in its beta phase, basically. But we want to get it out there for people to start tweaking and testing and seeing what's breaking, what's working. It is a much better graphics API than OpenGL. OpenGL, I don't even know if it gets any updates or anything like that, but Vulkan is an actually active graphics, interface. And it has the ability to do a lot more than just what OpenGL can do. I believe there's support for path tracing and all sorts of different shading types of things that can be done with it. So it's a long-term project that Side Effects is doing. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly... Vulkan is certainly... we're trying to improve the viewport. We'll just put it that way. I don't know what the end result will be. I mean, to be fair, I don't think the developers know either. To be honest, they're already hard at work. People are, they've submitted their version stuff, and they will continue to start working on new versions of Houdini moving forward. Some developers will stick with 20 and keep fixing that, and others will move on to new features going forward. So I mean, it's it is good night DJ, thanks for joining. So the Vulkan viewport is certainly a long-term kind of project for Side Effects, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes, what it ends up being. But yeah, I think it certainly will give us in the future much better flipbooks and better the ability for the developers to make better looking visualization, basically. And we'll see from there. What about real-time stuff? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. I mean, certainly that starts to bring things to mind, right? I can't say where it's going, even if I knew. But it certainly is going to be a longer term project. And I know that some of our developers have been literally focused on that, it seems like day and night, since the last release cycle, if not longer. So some developers have been working on some of these features since before 19.5 came out. So I mean, it is a constant kind of tag team kind of marathon situation where people hand a baton off and they keep going, and other people stick around, and it's crazy to be a part of software development. It really is a different world than what I'm used to. So, oh, cool, Terry. Oh, that's interesting. It's weird seeing the actual wireframe of packed geometry. Oh, wow, that is trippy. I did not know that was even a thing. That's interesting. Was it a reduced wireframe? I feel like I did see that somewhere actually. Is it a reduced wireframe, or is it actually like every poly is wireframe? I'm curious about that. I don't remember. But yeah, like, so, like, for example, you know, I know that a developer was working on like sphere shading to make sure that normal wireframe. Oh, okay. No, the real deal. So I know that like one of the developers was working on sphere shading for the OpenGL viewport to make sure it was working properly. And like, that was like a whole part of the development cycle, was making sure that the spheres were shaded properly. Like, there's the level of detail that they have to go through and reproduce is pretty intense. Like, it's crazy. So they're like, you know, hats off to them, to all the developers. It's incredible. Like, to watch absolutely brilliant people working is fantastic. Like, it's just so fun to get to see what everybody's doing. So no, I'm not switching my viewport over right now and having everything crash and then all that stuff. No, I will do it maybe eventually in a future stream. Like I said, I know that the developer, that one of the main developers that's working on it, has said that over the course of Houdini 20 development, that new features will come in, you know, will be added to the Vulkan viewport. So, so I mean, not like it's going to be, you know, this huge new thing, but like little feature updates will happen along. I mean, that's always happening. Like, if you watch the release notes over time, it's like sometimes you'll see, oh, this bug was fixed in this, and then you'll be like, wait, this new feature came in? Like, where did that happen? Like, how did that happen? So, you know, just like normal, like that's just normal side effect stuff. But you know, people will be doing that for sure. So there'll be some improvements along the way. So if it gets a bit more, as it gets more stable, I might play around with it at some point, but not yet. Not quite ready for that. And we know that. Like, everybody knows that. It's there. Anyways, let's do this. Somebody was asking about, yes, the clone control panel does look really awesome. I agree. What is it called? Is it attribute paint? I want to say that's the name of it. What is the... Oh yeah, there's also some other new test geometry. Electra is new test geometry. This is actually... I'll turn that off. It's a character built for the new animation workflows. So I believe, yeah, Apex scene. There's a video that explains how to use this that Rob McGee put out on our website. That was one of the things I was looking at. But take a look at that, and talks about how this works. Again, beta, we're still working on everything, still getting feedback. So if you run into bugs, if you have an RFE for something, you know, let us know. I mean, we've added in this whole new part to the animation timeline down here in order to help animators work better. Honestly, I don't even know. I feel like I saw somebody make this bigger, but oh yeah, there we go. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, you can do all sorts of things in here with keyframe easing and different things like that. You can set this up however you want to. You can turn, you can remove certain tools and switch and do different things like that. So yeah, there's tons of stuff in here. So if you're running into things and you're like, oh, this would be really awesome, like, put in a request, you know, like that's how these things get better. Yeah, Cappy is awesome. That's who I'll use. I'll use Cappy to show some painting here. So here's our Cappy Bear model. He's pretty funny. He's a funny little guy. Let's see here. If we apply the locomotion, let me walk. No, oh right, it's a rig. I'm not gonna worry about doing KinEffect stuff right now, but what if we wanted to paint some weights on him, right? So let's do this. Paint. What is it? What do we call that now? Texture mask paint? I think that's what it is. Yes. So if we grab our geometry, grab our texture mask here. Now we can just paint however we want to on here. Blah, blah, blah. Texture mask, paint. So this is completely decoupled from the resolution of the model. This is now just a volume that's being stored. So if we look at this and we look at the mask volume, let's do a null here. I think we should be able to see it here if I'm not mistaken. There we go. There is our two-dimensional volume. Cappy, new World of Warcraft racing coming, yeah. So this is what these textures look like. So they're very similar in concept to how a height field would work, right? It's just a two-dimensional volume that is, in this case 1024 by 1024. You can change this, we've got some presets here. I mean, good gracious, 32, okay. I mean, you can do that if you want. But let's just do, yeah, you don't have to go that high. It doesn't really, I don't really think that's going to give us any real benefit, but you can do some symmetry stuff with this, I think. So yeah, there we go. Let's just clear it back to 0. You can do some symmetry type things, blah, 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 cool. Yeah, so pretty... Does it use, yes, it's going to use UVs. Yes, I think it would probably build parametric UVs, but it certainly is in UV space. So if we looked at, let's do that. Let's look at two views side by side. We'll switch this over to UV view. And I believe if we look at this kind of carefully, we'll see how we can do this here. Let's see. So I think if let's paint Cappy here. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see anything in this viewport. So let's just do this. We'll pin. Okay, can I do that? Will that keep it? Yeah. Okay. Hello? No? Okay. Well, anyways, we can see here that we painted a little bit. Yeah, you can see right here how this curve right here matches up with this spot here. So we painted across a UV island there and it went over to here. So you can see that this is all matching up with UVs. And then what you would do, you would need to look it up using, I believe you would use volumetric lookup for that, right? And I think if you wanted to translate that into a texture, you could probably import it into COPS. That is certainly a good question. I haven't done that yet, but I think you could use the, there's a terrain kind of input into COPS, I think. You could use that probably and get it over there. And now use the scatter on texture thing. Yes, I will use that. That is fun. Anyway, so there's that. So let's go back to single view here. I'm going to turn this guy off so you can see this. So there's that. And then if we do scatter, there's a scatter and texture mask. So here we can grab the geometry. Here we can grab the texture mask. Or actually we could do it like that, I think, too. Hello? Texture primitive, mask, and there we go. We're getting our, that's a little hard to see. There we go. So now we're scattering into that texture. And so now we have a completely decoupled texture from the, texture resolution from the resolution of our geometry. So now this does not have to obey kind of the resolution of our actual mesh here. We can have in between kind of resolution. So like, let's just say, Cappy was, Cappy's pretty high res, but if we had something like, oh, okay, Carlos is saying Intagment did it. Yeah. So there you go. Perfect. All right, so let's do this. Let's not use Cappy. Let's use something let's do something maybe a little bit simpler. Let's do a sphere, right? And let's really get some super, super low resolution spheres going on here. So let's just say we do something like this, right? Farewell attribute interpolate. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be times to use things, right? But certainly this is going to be a huge benefit for the future of working with things. And it makes sense when you're using height fields and playing around with that and like seeing how that works. You kind of go, oh, this makes a lot of sense. Like you could use this concept with other things, and that's kind of what we've done here. So let's take a sphere. We'll do the same type of a thing. Let's do texture. Oops, sorry. Oh, cool. There's a node from labs to yeah, I haven't even looked at the labs nodes yet. That's true. Jeez. Labs. Yeah, I have not gone through all these. Jeez. Forgot it. Labs texture or something. Do I have my caps lock on? I do. Maybe it's this volume texture. I don't know. Anyways, yeah. Somebody asks, why does it need 2 inputs wired? So here's why. I'll show you in a second. So we have our sphere here, right? This is the. Oh, right. It doesn't have UVs. So there you go. Yes, definitely needs UVs. Let's just do a UV project. Just do the most basic spherical thing. Polar, sure. Great. They're terrible, but it'll work. All right, so we've got this, and we can paint on it now, right? It's not going to be perfect, but it'll do something. So the thing to remember here, right, is that we have we only have that many polygons, right? But if we do this scatter in texture, if I click the right one, and we change this over to texture primitive, because now we're looking for this texture primitive, not an actual texture. Now if we look at this, and we can see that we can actually very easily draw this texture kind of within a space that we didn't have access to before, right? So now we could have like a little line here of texture that this can kind of scatter into, like so. So this is kind of a new way of working with this that we didn't really have access to before. So, certainly you can probably tweak some of these settings here and, change how it works. Maybe the relax iterations might be a little too low or whatever, but, make sure you constrain it to the mask and all that kind of stuff. But, yeah, certainly some fun stuff to be had here. And this is obviously garbage UVs and geometry, but it gives you a sense of how maybe that would work. And so what we're getting here, the reason that there's 2 inputs is that one is going to be the geometry and the other is the mask volume. So like I was saying, like I showed here, this is our mask volume. Just say mask volume. And so this is coming through this second input. So this is we're using this to drive where the scattering is happening, right? So that is kind of that's telling it what space to scatter these points within and where in that UV mask it should be scattered. I believe this can just this can just work with regular textures as well, but makes sense to do it that way. And obviously you can read attributes on the geometry as well and control them that way and do all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that can be done there. This is, we can use this to control, this type of a workflow to control where the roots of hairs and feathers are being sourced onto geometry, and there's some workflows for that as well. Yeah, maybe that would be worth opening up here. Let's see. Let me just see where that download went. Maybe we'll look at those feather files, because those could be kind of fun just to look at. Maybe not the full one. Maybe I'll just look at the splash screen one. I think that one... Yeah, let's take a look at that. We'll open that up. We'll see how that goes. There's the splash screen. But yeah, so with there's a lot of different nodes that'll be included in this. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I know. Let's see here. What do we got? We've got our stage. Let's go back to object. Feathers. Here we go. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. We got some stuff here. This yeah. Let's see what happens here. Thanks for joining us, Carlos. Have a good day, man. Karma got a bunch of new nodes. Yes, that's true. Yep. Yes, there's a lot of new nodes there. Oh, are these all of the templates? Ooh. Yeah, so I am certainly not a grooming expert. And so a lot of this stuff is it's a little outside of my my comfort zone. Hey, there we go. Okay. Oh, cool. That's pretty fun. Let's see what's going on in this subnetwork. Ayo. Yeah, Jack is just saying mixing cops with the texture tools could be an awesome way to make procedural systems with shading and scattering. Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of, it kind of starts to open up some really cool new things. So I think, obviously that's a cool kind of pathway that in the future could be really exploited a lot. So yeah, for sure. It's definitely cool. I didn't even see that earlier, Carlos. The capybara is important to Venezuelan culture. That's fantastic. I love it. Love it. So let's see here. Yeah. So what's going on here is that I think these are all of the templates. Yep. So yeah. So we've got templates up here, and oh boy. Yeah, there's a lot of feather templates that have been made. And so, oh, okay. All right, we're doing okay. So pretty much what's happening here is that a bunch of feathers have been created, right? And so I'm gonna hide this. And so I'm pretty sure these were created from from an image that like actually describes a bunch of feathers on them and stuff like that. So so they've done a lot of work here. But if we look at these individually, we can kind of come in here and see how this works. Like here's our feather template from shape. We're doing some procedural stuff in here. Yeah, a bunch of noising and different things like that. Similar to what I was working with before, but now a lot of these guide processes and different things that worked only with hair now work with feathers as well. So these are cool things to kind of take note of. Let's see this one here. Where's this? Yep. So like this one here is actually using. So he does all of. I think it's Andre. Did all of this work here on uncondensed feathers, then recondenses them here. I guess you could say condenses them, and then adds a material onto it and all that kind of stuff here as well. Don't think we're going to see that material here, though. I think we would see that in Solaris. But yeah, so that's how he's doing a lot of this work here. So you can do these on condensed feathers. You can do some things on uncondensed feathers. But that's the idea here, is these are just building up all these different templates. He's naming them, merging them, kind of controlling them all together that way. So that's what's happening here overall. And then in these, let's see what we've got here. What he's doing is basically bringing some of these in and then starting to create some, he's using feather interpolate, things like that, to kind of blend these together. So what he's doing here is he's probably he's adding some curves here. Let's see. Lines, copying them right there, right? Let's do this. D, background, dark gray. Hopefully that'll help. Yep. So we've got a bunch of lines here that are just being added. We're adding in probably some attributes, I think. And let's see, what is he adding to these here? Template weights. So right now these just have full weighting. And then he should be blending between those two, basically. So he's blending between this feather here, maybe, and then across to another feather over there. Actually, no, sorry. This is P1, P2. Yeah, so these are the names of the templates, and then these are the weights for them. Let's see if he uses a blend anywhere else here. It doesn't look like he's blending there. So this template interpolate can actually blend between different kind of guide feathers. Template names. No, not seeing anything there. But yeah, so that's kind of the idea here, is that you can do these, you can take these really high resolution feathers and drive them from really simple guide geometry, right? Here's the guide geometry for it, right? And then we interpolate it like this, and that'll put those templates right on there. So that's kind of the idea for how these feathers work and kind of the general concepts for it. I mean, obviously there's a ton of work going into this. There's background here, that's some sort of height field, it looks like. Yeah. Oh, cool. Interesting. And there's probably a bunch of other grooming stuff that's been done here, as far as like you can. Oh yeah, that's probably from the OpenCL warnings and things like that. Give this a second to calculate. Here we go. So yeah, so it looks like what he's doing here is taking these setups that he's made, right? So like in this case, there's that kind of, I don't know, almost looks like a shuttlecock kind of thing. And then over here, what are these? Let's see. Yeah. So there, he's created a whole bunch of kind of noise on it. There's, you know, you can take these curves. It's kind of crazy. Like you can just take a curve, take a template, and just interpolate it, right? These are taking all of the templates in, right? There's the templates coming in. And then if you give it a curve to apply to, you can kind of just blend them together however you want to using curves and just tell it which template to look for. So for sure there's going to be better explanations. I have never looked at this before, so I'm seeing this all kind of live right now. But yeah, lots of interesting little details in here for sure. It's a lot to kind of process, but that's how the feathers would work. Cool. I'm just going to close that because that's cool. I don't really need to save anything there. Right. Let me just see here. What else do we have? I was actually planning to do other things tonight, but this has been fun, and we've just kind of chatted a bunch about Houdini 20. Let's see, what did I have? There was one more thing. Right, exactly. Yeah, it's a whole tool set, exactly. The one thing to keep in mind there, too, is that the feather procedural will bring in that geometry and can do deformation and stuff like that at render time. So that is really the way that you want to do it. You just store all your guides and your the rest positions for your grooms, and then from there you're good. Oh, the render statistics. Yeah, I haven't even played around with that. Where is that? Where do I get to that? Anybody? Help? Not in there. Is it here? Snapshots. Is it this? Hello? Yeah, there it is. Okay, so you got to use the render gallery, I think. I think it comes in a few other places as well. But yeah, here's the... yeah, it's in mplay. Yeah, it's in... small icon at the top right. What? Oh, you're talking about in there. Okay. Little delay. Thank you, Matul. All right. So yeah, you can get to it in mplay, render gallery. You found it. You're a genius. Yeah. Huge brain. Yeah, render gallery is a place where you can find it as well. And yeah, so let's see what we got here. A bunch of different stuff. We've got, some data that we can look at. Let's see here. It's very exciting. Excuse me. Is that 125 million shader calls? Jeez, that's crazy. I don't even know. I mean, I don't know what that even means, but yeah. So this is the excuse me. This is the I think the basic version of it. I'm pretty sure that if you export an exe, how does that work? Let's try something here. Render. I'm going to say it's in here, so it's got to be in here somewhere where you can set that up. So... Matul, how do I export it so I can see it from the that cool output thing? The website that it makes. There it is. I think this is it. I don't know. All right, let's do this. Render to mplay. No cameras found. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's see your camera. Oh, I can just add a camera right here. Cool. Cool. please. Oh. And do it. Okay, maybe? There it is. There's M-Play. Yeah, look at that render. Oof. Sends chills down my spine. It's perfect. All right, where did I save that? Let's see here. Did this work? Nope. That's not it. That's not it. Where is it? Oh, you know what? Probably should have done that, huh? That would have been smarter. Is it in here? All right, everybody, watch me click a bunch of buttons. It's in there. Image output, maybe. I don't know, folks. It's in here somewhere. I'll have to look for it. Oh, interesting. Render to M-Play? Maybe? Where did this render to? Where's this even outputting to? Just rendering it to some random place. Render? Oh. Render to disk. Let's try that. Try saving the thing. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. Yeah, I think I know what you'd like, switching the name of it to HTML. Yeah, maybe. Oh, the gear in the right. No. No, it doesn't. Well, anyways, there's definitely a way to do it. I don't know. I don't know what it is. There's the render gallery. That's all right. I'll have to figure that out, because that is a really cool thing. There's actually like a website that you can like write out with it. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's got every bit of detail in there. So I'm sure somebody will probably mention it tomorrow in one of those presentations. I haven't seen them all, but anyways, there it is. That's the this is kind of the basic view, I guess, and I'm sure there's more fancy views. There definitely are other views to be had. But yeah. I could probably find one, but I don't want to show it if I'm not supposed to. So I definitely have seen them before and downloaded them on my computer. But anyways, okay. All right. Well, we're getting to 2 hours here, folks, and I'm starting to run out of steam a little bit. Does anybody else have any questions or thoughts or anything like that before maybe I sign off for the evening? Because this was originally going to be called, I was going to originally do some simulations on here, but I guess everybody was just too hyped for H20. Rename it. Yeah, I don't know if anybody has any questions or thoughts or anything like that about the, I guess about new features, about things that we're chatting about here. Happy to right click on the snap. Yeah, didn't like that. Well, thanks for trying to help, Matul. Appreciate it. So yeah. Yeah, I think if you're interested in USD related things, take a look. There's a couple things. What I would say is if you want Solaris specific things, take a look at the Nightjack. Thanks for joining the stream. I'm almost done as well, so I'll be right behind you. If you're looking for something really good, take a look at the tutorials, and there's the how to pose and animate Electra, so that's helpful. Mr. Moeen here did a cool video called "Solaris is Sweet." I think if I do that, there it is. Really, really good stuff. Shows you how to build kind of this setup here, and it's really, really nice if you're getting into kind of Solaris from a straight artist perspective, right? This this course is 2 hours 45 minutes roughly, and that is really, really helpful if you want to get into Solaris. I have a few tutorials that I've done, and those are called USD with Solaris. I think you'll find them on here. Yes, so these three are ones that I've made. Take a look at those if you're interested in some of the USD kind of technical things. As you can tell from the, hopefully can tell from the icons here, we actually will open up USD files and take a look at what's going on inside of it, because it's kind of important to know that. There's kind of two different parts to USD. One of it is what's happening in your viewport and in your scene, but then there's also kind of this ground truth data that's being written. So these are definitely more intermediate level, kind of technical. Moeen's is definitely a more beginner, like you've barely done any Houdini before. Oh, they're right on the same page. Cool. So anyways, take a look at those for sure. Yep, Carlos, I think that is 100% what Solaris is Sweet is made for. It is not like, so Moeen, the guy that teaches that. He is not from a big studio, and he breaks down exactly why it's beneficial and helpful to use, why variants help, why setting up variants is so nice to be able to, use for stuff down the line, and using it in a in a single person kind of setup or in a small studio or whatever. So yeah, that's 100%. And I didn't come from a large studio either, so his stuff I've heard nothing but good stuff about. Did it really? The strike just ended? Wow. I am shocked by that. I thought they were at a weird spot with some AI stuff. Wow, that's great news. I am glad to hear that. Thank goodness. Interesting. Yep, there it is. Sorry. I had to go over because that is interesting. Tentative agreement, but it ended. Cool. Well, that's good. Let's get back to work. Let's make some movies and TV shows and stuff. Terry, you 2 to 4 person band, but we love Solaris. Yeah, take a look at Moeen's stuff, and then once you've kind of gotten through his workflows and things like that, take a look at some of mine, and I think those will pair together nicely. Yeah, very good. Cool. Well, everybody, I think I'm going to start wrapping things up here because it's been a couple hours for me. And to be completely honest, I haven't eaten dinner yet, so I'm kind of hungry. But I appreciate everybody, taking some time and spending Houdini 20 day hanging out here with everybody. And yeah, really fun comments, really good to hear from everybody. And I think next week I think in the coming weeks, I should say, there'll be a little bit of mix of new features that we might talk about, new Houdini 20 features, and just continuing to break down different things and kind of use some of the what's the word? Some of the suggestions that people have made on the Discord to just kind of continue learning through those. So if you haven't connected on the Discord, Vulkan next week. Yeah, I'll only use Vulkan from now on. If you haven't joined the Discord server yet, join it at HoudiniHangout.com. There's a link there. Feel free to chat about whatever and ask for help and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's a great place to suggest topics for new streams. Certainly, I'm always very motion graphic oriented. Thanks, Terry. Always very motion graphics oriented since that's kind of where I come from, but certainly interested in helping in a bunch of different things. There's even been some suggestions of doing some HQ stuff, and especially now with there being this clone workflow in Solaris now, that could be really, really beneficial to even see how to set. Thanks, everybody. Matul, you're ridiculous. Yeah, so thanks everybody for joining. Thank you for the questions and comments and all of the fun chat. And I will see you guys next week. Thanks so much for joining, and I'll talk to you later. Enjoy Houdini 20. Drop any questions you have on the Discord, and we'll try to answer them if we can. All right. Good night, everybody. See you next week. Bye-bye.